Hi, I'm Adam Mertz of the Wisconsin State Journal and madison.com, joined today by Benjamin Wargel, also of the State Journal and scout.com, badgernation.com for the locals. We're here today to talk about the Badgers recruiting class in football, going to be announced on Wednesday. Ben, not many scholarships available this year. Walk us through the size of this class and kind of the factors that went into putting it together.
Well, as we sit here today, this class is only in about the 11 to 13 range. This class is not going to be very big, and that's kind of come from, in Brett Bielema's first couple classes, he had a lot of kids he threw scholarships at to try to get volume in here, and those didn't work out, transfers, people leaving the program, and so he doesn't like backloading scholarships. He likes to use them when possible, and obviously with the walk-on program they have here with Ethan Hemer and Jared Aberderis, guys that are worthy of scholarships, he wants to give those kids scholarships, in essence taking away scholarships that he has available for this upcoming class. So this class is going to be very, very small, but it's tough too, because coming off a Rose Bowl year, you want a lot of volume in this class. There's a lot of interest in your program, so they had to be very selective in the kids they want to bring in. And in a sense, that helps them bring in what they feel are the best kids. And so, they address positions of need. They got a lot of offensive linemen in this class, a lot of help in the secondary. They got the two best players in state to come in, and they've kind of dabbled in Illinois. They went out to Washington. They get a good quarterback out of California. So it's been pieced together very carefully, knowing that they've had very little room to work with.
Let's talk about some of those top-name players that have come through here. I mean, on everyone's mind is Bart Houston, the quarterback, because of how highly he was rated. Give me your quick thoughts on him.
Bart Houston is probably the best quarterback Wisconsin's ever had in terms of recruitment from a high school kid. I mean, he brings in such an outstanding pedigree as a three-time state champion, and his numbers you look at and they don't wow you right off the paper. I mean, he threw for I believe just a shade under 2,000 yards, which is a lot, but for a high school quarterback, you think those numbers would be bigger. But his offense really didn't demand him to throw the ball a lot. But when he goes into all these other elite camps, I mean, he was in the Elite 11, he was in an All-American Bowl. He just wows people with the way he works, the way he throws, and obviously he's a winner. And you get a kid, a four-star quarterback in your system, that's already a big coup, but you get from a place in California, and from such a talented program in California, it's one of those things where it comes very unexpected, and it's also a very big bonus because it's traditionally an area Wisconsin doesn't go and recruit, but credit to Paul Chris, who used his contacts from Oregon State to bring him in, and credit to Bart Houston that even though Chris left, he was firm that he wanted to come here because this was the right fit for him.
You mentioned offensive line. Dan Volz from Illinois is a guy who jumped out very early in the process that he signed on. What can you tell us about Dan?
Dan was a huge start to this recruiting class. He got recruited from all over: Alabama, Auburn, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Tons of people were in looking at him, and he wanted to get this decision done soon and early in this process. And so he committed back in March, and he committed to Wisconsin. And to get a four-star offensive lineman, number one in your class, just really builds. It helps the class build, and it kind of sets a tone for what they want their class to be. And I believe their first 5 commits were all four-star kids, and I'm not saying that's directly related to Dan Volz, but to get a guy like Volz who could play offensive guard, he could even play center, he could flip to maybe even a tackle position, even a guy that is almost at that young age kind of almost NFL ready. And what I mean by that is that he has all the tools that NFL scouts look for in older kids, in juniors and seniors in college, and to have those natural skills in him, just a really big bonus for Wisconsin, especially a school that thrives on getting big offensive linemen in. He describes himself as a mauler, and I think that's what you want in your offensive linemen, guys that look for contact, look for that point of attack, and take advantage of it, and that's exactly how Dan Volz plays. And it's big that Wisconsin got him in here for spring camp as well, because with Kevin Zeitler leaving at the right guard position, if Dan Volz has a good spring and good summer, he certainly can take over that role.
Volz early enrolling here at Wisconsin. He is in class, and he'll be there on Wednesday for the announcement. You mentioned the 2 in-state kids. You got Vontae from Kenosha Bradford, Vontae Jackson, and Vince Beagle, linebacker from Wisconsin Rapids. There wasn't a deep class of kids in Wisconsin this year, but they got the guys they needed.
Yeah, they only offered 2 kids up until just a couple of weeks ago in the state of Wisconsin, and they got them both. And this was key to get them both in early. They got them both in March. Vontae Jackson came in March, and then Vince Beagle came at the spring game in April. And Beagle is just a natural, talented athlete. And Wisconsin really wasn't looking for linebackers in this class, but when you have a kid in Vince Beagle who is in your backyard, has such a good relationship with the coaching staff here, it's a no-brainer. And he picked Wisconsin over BYU. He's obviously the Mormon faith, had a lot of connections there. His dad, Rocky, played at BYU. And to get him to come here and to stay here, despite all the shifts with the coaching changes, with the linebacker coaches, is really big. And Vontae Jackson, too, for him to also enroll early, had a great junior year working next to Melvin Gordon. Obviously, he injured his knee and missed the whole senior season. But to get him here and to get him back working is really big for Wisconsin. And like I said, they don't have a lot of room here, and they only wanted one running back. And to get the best running back in the state and one of the best in the Midwest, another big bonus for the University of Wisconsin.
Guy who played running back in high school at Wanakee, Leo Musso, a late addition, kind of came out of nowhere. He had a walk-on offer, a lot of interest from Wisconsin, but all of a sudden it got jacked up to a full scholarship last week, and he bit right on it.
Yeah, Brett Bielema offered him a 3-for-5 deal, kind of like the same deal that Kyle French got and Marcus Trotter got, because Wisconsin was so low on scholarships. What they wanted to do is they wanted to get a kid like him in and then give him a scholarship later on, so he'd have to walk on for 2 years, pay his own way, then he'd be on scholarship. But with all the coaching changes out to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh offering him a full scholarship, it kind of seemed like Brett Bielema had to have his hand forced a little bit. And with Leo Musso, a guy that scored 35 touchdowns 2 years ago, 39 last year, state champion, and it doesn't even play in the second half of a lot of his games. Just kind of a natural athlete. That's what you want in your program. He reminds me a little bit of Borland in terms of his size and his athleticism, but Leo Musso, he could be a running back, he could be a safety, he could be a punt returner, he could be a kick returner, he could be a jack of all trades, kind of like a Brady Ewing was for their special teams. Mm-hmm. So you bring a guy like him in, it's really going to benefit you later on. I think Brett was just a little disappointed that he had to maybe give him a full scholarship right away instead of having to use one later on. But definitely a kid that is going to enjoy being a part of this program and is going to work hard for this program, and that's exactly what Brett wants in his kids.
And the class is not finished. Wednesday, we're going to be hearing from 2-3 in that range of players who still have Wisconsin in their final mix. What should we be looking for out there? What are the names that we're going to want to keep an eye on?
Well, you're looking for three big names, 2 on Wednesday and then 1 on Friday. The 2 on Wednesday, you're going to look at Kyle Dotson, who has been verbally committed to Wisconsin. He committed in October, really enjoyed the program, really loved the program, but then he's an Ohio native. Urban Meyer, once he took that job, made a pitch to Dotson, and Dotson, who grew up an Ohio State fan, has been basically reopened his commitment, and he's going to decide between Wisconsin, USC, Ohio State, and then I believe Michigan State as well. And you're kind of thinking it's going to be Ohio State or USC. You don't really like Wisconsin's chances anymore in that, which is too bad because of all the coaching changes, particularly Bob Bostad leaving. One kid you should look for is Jake Meter, a 3-star kid out of Indiana who was committed to Ole Miss, and offensive line coach Mark Markinson, who is now the offensive line coach here at Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. He was on an official visit this weekend. I've been told that he is now favoring Wisconsin, and he's going to kind of be thinking things over here. He's going to announce, I believe, at 1 o'clock at his school on Wednesday. And Friday is Jordan Diamond, the 5-star kid out of Chicago Simeon High School, who is kind of the cream of the crop. 5-star kid, like I said. I think he's number 8 offensive lineman in the country. He's looking at Wisconsin, who he just visited officially. He's looking at Ohio State, Michigan State, Michigan. He's looking at Auburn, I believe. I believe he did eliminate Ohio State out of the running. So Wisconsin has to feel maybe they have a chance with him, but it's going to be a really difficult sell for him because we've been hearing he's been leaning towards Michigan for quite some time.
It's Benjamin Wargel of badgernation.com. You're going to have coverage leading up to signing day on Wednesday. Tell people what they can find on your website.
Well, we've broken down what we call commitment capsules. We've broken down every position, kind of the recruiting story to get a kid like Bart Houston or Leo Musso to campus, who Wisconsin's missed out on, who Wisconsin might be getting, like a Jordan Diamond or a Jake Meter. We're going to have a story up on Tuesday about kind of 5 years later. We look at the recruiting class from 5 years ago. Then we'll have full commitments and stories up on signing day from the kids we just talked about, and all sorts of good stuff that gets all you recruitniks interested in Wisconsin recruiting, which is it's a good class. It's a class that on a 5-point scale, the average star is 3.17, which is 20th in the country. It's better than Miami. And you look at what Wisconsin had to work with, not a lot of room to work with. They certainly got some good kids in here to fit their program.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll have full coverage on madison.com on Wednesday as well, and we'll talk to you then.